recording.
Are you ready? It is time for KMB Talk.
Welcome to another episode of KMB Talk. I am your host, Kerry Michael Bennett. Today we are going to have a very special, heartfelt discussion about leadership. Now, before we introduce our in-studio guest, I'd like to take a few moments and talk about Captain Joseph William Schultz. Captain Joe served 2 tours in Iraq. 1st Battalion, 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division. 2nd tour served as a G2 advisor to the 10th Iraqi Army Division. Once he received his Green Beret, he was assigned to Company C, 3rd Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group Airborne, served as a detachment commander of Special Forces Operational Detachment Alpha 3333. Captain Joe had a core belief, leading from the front. Those that know him well in the service and outside say he was a very compassionate human being that really wanted to keep people close and try to protect at all costs, known for never asking his troops to do anything that he would not do himself. Not only did he use the phrase lead from the front very often, but he actually demonstrated it more often than not, was in the front HUMVEE in any situation that they encountered abroad. We lost Captain Joseph on May 29th of 2011 in Afghanistan. With us today in studio, we would like to introduce Captain Joe's mom, Betsy Reed Schultz. Betsy, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Carrie, for having me today.
Well, let us begin by offering our condolences for your loss.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As a former military person, it's very difficult for me to have some aspects of this dialogue, and then by the time you couple in that I have a son serving in active duty right now, I may choke up as we're speaking. So if you see me try to be a little sarcastic, it's probably just a defense mechanism, because we're going to cover some tough topics. Leadership. You lose your son May 29th, 2011. Captain Joseph House, you were telling me before we began recording, was born almost less than 4 days later.
You're right. When I heard the news that Joseph had been killed in Afghanistan, I was at that time living in the house that had been my previous bed and breakfast.
Okay.
And during the next 4 days, part of that journey took me to Dover Air Force Base, where I was there to welcome Joseph home.
Okay.
And I began thinking about using what was the bed and breakfast could be used in a very important long-term opportunity for Gold Star families to gather together in small groups, to share, to talk, to walk that journey together. And Joseph always said someday he would have children, and it was a kind of a grandmotherly-like house that needed to have children. And Joseph didn't have any children, but there will be many children that come.
So the house is a older house. It's a
1910
Tudor style
right.
bed and breakfast home in Port Angeles, Washington. You receive the phone call, and almost immediately you're thinking this bed and breakfast is about to be repurposed.
Yes, it was. Within about 4 days, I had started creating the actual write-up for the program to have Captain Joseph House, and who would come, how would they get there, what they would do when they came to this beautiful, beautiful part of the country.
Well, talk about honoring the leadership motto of lead from the front. I mean, you're coming out of the gate. At 4 days, you're coming out of the gate. And if you had shared this with me at day 4, I would probably question if you're just really having an emotional reaction. But in Betsy's mind, she's already writing the program. The plan.
Joseph and I had a very, very special connection.
Okay.
When he would deploy, we would always have a conversation. I would go to wherever he was to talk about that he was leaving, and we'd have a conversation about living after. And there was a promise that he extracted from me, that as though he was prepared, physically he was prepared to go to war, he was trained, he knew where he was going and why, but it would be if by chance I don't come home, I'm willing to die for my country. But if I don't, do not die with me. And we would have that conversation and make that promise. And I'll tell you, there are days when promises are really hard to keep. But thank you, Joseph, because that promise has been a very important part of Captain Joseph House, my life. And so I thank him. It's a gift that he gave me, not knowing that I would need to have. But,
right.
But I did. And
after the fact, there's so much emotion when you're trying to honor the request of someone that you love so much. And off the top of my head, I remember growing up and watching the movie or the TV series Lonesome Dove. Mm-hmm. Have you seen it? Okay. And Robert Duvall's character passes, so they're in Texas and they go all the way to Montana. And no sooner do they get there, he passes away. But his dying wish to Captain Call is, take me back to Texas. Back. And of course, Captain Call honored. But along the way, I think there was probably some under the breath cursing. And
just a little, and a little bit of thanks a lot, Joseph, for what you've forced me to doing. Always part of moving forward on any kind of loss. You have to find a way to keep moving ahead. It doesn't mean the loss will go away, mm-hmm. but it's there, and you find a way to make your life fulfilled, purposeful, and this is how it came that I decided this is what I would do with the former bed and breakfast.
Wow. So this was back in 2011.
Yes.
Let's fast forward to 2019. What? We're in March now.
We are in March.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Okay. We're in March now. And I've seen the home, beautiful mm-hmm. home. And I have heard from you and then from many others in the community that this home's current status has really been a labor of a tremendous amount of volunteerism, a tremendous amount of donations, and that the communities in and around the Port Angeles and the Olympic Peninsula have just really been amazing.
It's the biggest barn raising, I think, in terms of people being involved. We're at just a little over 21,000 volunteer hours with volunteers. There's
wow.
a core of folks working in the office as well as working on the house. And every Wednesday, there's a crew that comes in and complete next steps with the house. And it's a great project. We have a community that's been so supportive. It's not just in volunteer time, but it's committees, businesses in town have made donations in kind, outright donations in cash.
Substantial donations.
Substantial.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
This goes beyond a bake sale, really, and it's ongoing. So every year you're having to engage your community and sell your vision.
And it will be ongoing with 3 families a week that will come in on Sunday and stay through Friday. We have 3 vans that were donated from one of our local dealerships.
Okay.
So that we have transportation once the families come.
Okay.
We'll fly them in from any branch of the military, all families for Gold Star families since 9/11. And they'll spend a 6-day time together doing what families do, with getting up, fixing breakfast, making picnics, just being a family.
Now, for our viewers and listeners that
mm-hmm.
do not know,
mm-hmm.
and I want to be fair. I want to be really honest. I'm going to reasonably assume that a lot of people don't know, because I'm former military with a child in the military, and I did not know. I think many of us, whether we're military or not, and let's, the bulk of us are not, we assume that if something happens to a man or a woman in service, that there is more than likely this laundry list of programs available for the family to help them heal. We assume that. And in all fairness, that is not the case. Or at least what I discovered is there may be a program in place for a Gold Star mother. And for the viewers and listeners, if you don't know, the term Gold Star means you're an immediate family member of someone that passed during service. And Gold Star, President Wilson, right? I think he's the one.
World War One.
World War One.
World War One. It was a Gold Star mom whose son was killed in the war, and right before he was found, his mom had put together a program of other Gold Star women together, and it was done so that families could spend time together. But it started as Gold Star moms specifically.
So if you hear the designation Gold Star, that is not a rank where we all hear, oh, that's a 1-star general or a 4-star general. Gold Star means that person lost a loved one. And there are these programs available for Gold Star mothers. I have seen hints at other programs that might specialize in assisting a Gold Star father or hopefully a Gold Star sibling. But for the most part, what is incredibly unique about Captain Joseph House, what is innovative, again, leading from the front here, even from a thought leader perspective, is it is the first of its kind repurposed facility that is designed for the whole family to come and participate together.
Correct. It's we feel that as families heal and move forward, it's a family need to grow together. There are other programs for Gold Star wives, Gold Star mothers. There's programs for children to gather and go on trips to, say, Disney World, Disneyland. But for families in a small grouping, 3 families at a time to gather, is a very different model.
Very different model.
And the intent is that when the families leave, whether you're a child or you're the older family member, that you will leave with a connection with another person, another family that will carry way beyond the week that you spend at Captain Joseph House. You don't come a second time. This is a one-time event, and it is Gold Star families because everyone in that family has a connectedness that needs to heal together as a family and move forward.
So the service that I'm hearing that you're providing is, I wouldn't wish this upon anyone. And again, as a father, if that phone rings, I don't know if on day 4 I'm going to be creating this program. Someone's going to have to scrape me off the floor somewhere. I'm going to be in pieces. But when a family comes, the goal is when they leave, you have changed, or the Captain Joseph House has changed their trajectory in what
we believe,
what their future is going to look like. Not only healing as a family, but even coming away with some inspiration, with new contacts from others that have suffered similar.
Yes.
And then from there, there's no telling what organizations they get involved with or how they reapproach going back to work, okay? Because reality continues.
And I can say, Carrie, now, I would not want you to even imagine. I would hope that you would never be part of this unintended club, this group of family. I have had soldiers who have come and worked at the house on a work day, and as they're leaving have come to me and said, this is a great project, but I don't want my mother ever to meet you. And I can understand, certainly, I don't want to meet his mother under those circumstances. And then a couple weeks later, I got an email saying, thank you very much. I've deployed. I feel more comfort in going because I know if I don't come home, there's a place that will be there for my mother at Captain Joseph House. And it's those pieces, those connected pieces that we have that make it right for me to continue doing what I'm doing. I don't know if you know it or not, but we have 4 other volunteers working at Captain Joseph House as we speak, who also have sons who are active duty and are deploying.
So we're here
Soon,
right now.
right now.
We're
And so-
speaking right now, and
That's
right
right.
now at Captain Joseph House are volunteers, sorry, with children preparing to deploy. God bless. It's intense. How do you do this every day?
I get up and I say, I'm glad that I'm up for another day. And some days I go, gosh, Joe, look what you got me into. And then on the other hand, I go, thank you, Joseph. This is a necessary project for Gold Star families.
A lot of really meaningful hugs along the way. Okay, so these Gold Star families, Captain Joseph House doesn't want them to incur any financial expense.
Right.
We're paying for your airfare. We're picking you up at Seattle,
Seattle. Mm-hmm.
driving you to Captain Joseph House.
Correct.
For the week, everything's covered. Food, activities. I mean, this has to be one of the most beautiful. There's a lot of beautiful places in the United States, but this has to be one of the most beautiful. You have the Olympic Mountains, you have the Pacific Ocean, and just so many things to do in Mother Nature. And already Mother Nature is known to be a very healing environment. And then at the end and during their stay, you also have resources available to them, spiritual.
Yes, if we call it, it's an organization of clergy that will be available on call. That if a family member would like to speak specifically to their Baptist clergy or whomever they would like, that we'll have clergy in our community that know that they will be on call for a particular period of time, possibly 24 hours at a time, and they may not be on call more than once every 8 to 12 weeks.
Okay.
But it would be for a family to be able to get in touch with through one of our staff to say,
Okay.
this family would like to do some quiet time with their clergy. We also have a memorandum of understanding with a local social services community program.
Okay.
That while we have families in residence from Sunday to Friday, that they will, if they have the need, that there might be a meltdown or just a really tough time that they need to receive some kind of connection or intervention, we would have that service available for them.
So Captain Joseph House can accommodate up to 3 families simultaneously.
Right, 16 total individuals with 3 families, and each of the rooms are have a different. One family can handle 8. One room
Okay.
does 7, 1 6. So
Okay.
we add that up, and we cannot hold more than 16 families members at a time.
Members at a time. I want to say, and if I'm incorrect, I apologize, but am I correct to remember that you once told me about a fire that goes 24 hours? Or there's a room where something about a room where 1 a.m. there's someone available to talk to you, or
A fire! I don't know where the fire part comes. We have staff that are there.
I find fires to be
fires.
very healing. I love sitting by the fire, so maybe I'm
Well, we have the crackling fireplace with real wood. It's not
Okay.
a propane. We do have
Okay.
the fire in the library that's crackling all the time.
Okay.
We have a staff person that is open, that's there from 11 p.m. till 8,
Okay.
that does not sleep. This person is awake. They're doing quiet cleaning, possibly. They're doing database entry.
Okay.
They're prepping for the next guest coming. But if a family member comes down and needs an extra cup of tea or
Can't
to wrap
sleep.
up in a quilt, can't sleep, wants to talk, that staff person is there for them. And we laugh. We would stoke the fire a little so
Okay.
that it's crackling. That's where the fire
That's where the
came
fire.
from.
It was
Yes.
probably either that or it was my thinking. If I were in that role on that overnight, I would have the fire going.
Yes.
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 And available for anyone that wants to come. Okay, so we know what Captain Joseph House is. We know what it took to get here. Now it's time for families. local community has bent over backwards and just been amazing in getting Captain Joseph House to where it's at. I'm a little afraid to ask what type of donations it's going to take to sustain Captain Joseph House on an annual basis, up to 3 families at a time, because unfortunately the reality of the U.S. military is we're losing thousands of troops on an annual basis, right?
Right. We have, since 9/11, we have about 7,100 families that qualify to come to Captain Joseph House.
Wow.
And we've done the numbers. If you have, we have no further losses, it would be 50 years to bring all these families that would like to come.
Wow.
It's a little over $1 million a year
Okay.
to bring the families.
Okay.
And again, that's their airfare,
Mm-hmm.
their room and board, their recreational activities,
Everything.
transportation on the peninsula while we're there. And that's if we have no donations for this project.
Okay.
We are always looking through the different airlines to have assistance with bringing families here. With 3 families coming at a week, they will come from different parts of the country. You may have a family come in from New York, you'll have a family from Florida, and maybe a family from California on a particular weekend. They could be from any branch of the military. You might have a Marine family, an Air Force, and an Army family.
So we need donations at
We
this
do
point.
donations, yes,
Okay.
in order to sustain this, yes.
And here's what I'm thinking. So I've spent time, specifically, let's talk about banking for a moment. When you're in a bank, it's very common for local civic groups or organizations to come solicit for donations. And one thing I really enjoy about community banking or banking in general is typically the industry is very well known for philanthropic, being a philanthropist within their local communities, but that's within their communities. But here we are with Captain Joseph House in Port Angeles, Washington, serving a national audience. How's Captain Joseph House going to go to this particular business in San Jose, California, or Tampa, Florida, or New York City and say, listen, we really want to solicit some donations from you. This is a meaningful program, a meaningful cause. It addresses a need that does not exist. And their response is, that's way up there in Port Angeles, Washington. This has nothing to do with us in Tampa, Florida. I can argue against that right now.
Well, there's 2 things I need to share.
Okay.
One is soliciting monies from states throughout the country. All but 10 of the U.S. states require registration procedures, and we are in the process right now creating,
Okay.
filling out all the registrations throughout the country
Okay.
of the states that require licensing to solicit in their state. So before
Okay.
we go out to Texas and Florida and the various states, we will have these registrations approved and in our books. And then when we look at why Northwest, and we have families from all around, it happens to be this is where I lived. This was the house that I happened to have and was able to donate to Captain Joseph House to start this project. No young man, woman, anyone goes just to support their town. When you go
That
and
is
join
correct.
the military, you are there to support and protect the United States. And so, although this is a project in Port Angeles, this is a national project.
It's a national project.
It happens just to be here. It's a national
Okay.
project. It's a reach all over, and so families will come from throughout the country.
Well, it has to be somewhere, okay?
Correct,
I mean,
correct.
this could be in Arizona, it can be anywhere, but
right.
it needs to exist. It needs to serve
Right.
the purpose. So I want to focus in for a moment on the funding. You said, and let's use Texas as an example. And by the way, I'm from Texas originally, so great.
Good pick there.
Good mention. Good mention. What an interesting state. Okay. Let's assume that right now you're in the process of approval for soliciting to Texas. But right now, someone from Texas hears this show and says, I want to donate, they can donate right now. You just can't solicit
Correct.
them.
Correct.
So right now on this show, KMB Talk, we are soliciting the entire United States, and I don't have to register with anybody. And that's the beautiful thing about it. So I, having been the recipient of donation request and had to either approve myself, depending upon the amount, or funnel it up, I know for a fact that you are going to run into again, I'm in Florida, New York, Georgia, whatever. Why should I get involved? And my response, and this is the Marine coming out of me, okay? My response is, you're not thinking about this the right way, Organization X, okay? Because you're in a county. You're in some type of municipality, a city, a county, something. And I guarantee you that every year, X amount of young men and women, enter the United States military from your community. You know who they are. You see them at your high school football games. You see them at the graduations. Everyone knows when that person comes back and they have that uniform on, and oh my gosh, ooh, look at them, right?
Yeah.
Men or women, they look sharp. Yeah. Marines, we have the best looking outfits.
Well, let's be careful now. Let's be careful.
Let's just put it out there. The dress blues, that's it. Okay. But I could argue, so give me a president of a bank or a senior executive that says, let's assume that I'm doing the soliciting for you. Carrie, this is in Port Angeles, Washington. This has nothing to do with us. Our shareholders are going to have little to no interest in seeing that we made a sizable donation to an organization up here. My immediate response is, you are so incorrect. You look at how many young men and women from your community, from your customers, your families that are in your banks, or whatever we're going to pick on banks, are in your we're going to pick on banks, or in your banks, or a customer of your business, okay? And you know they're going in. We know for a fact that mathematically how many are going in, and unfortunately, we also know mathematically that a percentage of them are not coming home. You're investing in Captain Joseph House means everything. And it means the most to the families in your community that do lose someone. But the whole purpose of the investing is not to think that may happen. We never want to pretend or think that may happen. We hope it never happens to your community. But I see this as an organization that every single community that has a military recruiter or a military presence of recruitment or a military entrance processing center, anything, needs to be involved with this. Because I'm telling you, when I was in the service, I was a Marine, I was a machine gunner in the infantry, security forces. I knew exactly what I signed up for. I knew it. But I'm telling you, I also assumed that if something happened to me, that this program already exists to help my mother and my father and family members, and it doesn't. So this program is needed on so many levels. Now you're needing upwards of 1-2 million in donations a year. That's a big number. But you know what? It's not a big number at all. We just need a lot of organizations from across the United States to recognize those that are going into the military from their community, to reach out to Betsy and say, here's what we can do.
It's a small price for what the families have made. And if you divide it up in the year, from year to year, a 1 week respite week, whether it's in Port Angeles, I don't know if we talked about it, that there's 4 additional houses that will eventually be developed throughout the country to accommodate Captain Joseph House, to accommodate the number of families that are continuing to be part of this.
I can already think of a builder who would offer this home in Texas.
Well, let's talk with him.
I won't mention his name, but he would. But those type of people, those compassionate human beings, they're out there We just have to connect this story to them. And we really need the leadership. We really need organizational leaders to hear this and say, we're sending something there. We want to be involved in supporting the mission.
And we'll hope that some of those leaders are listening to your show today. It's an important need. It's the follow-up for families. It's a need to connect and make a tie that goes beyond just coming here and being able to get back with each other, to share and talk. But we really, really want the families that have come here to find that there's purpose in living. We can't take back what's happened, but if we can assist families in finding that it's okay to fly kites, it's okay to laugh, it's okay to cry, it's okay to just be, but sharing that experience with a family who is as close as anyone else can say, I know how you feel. And we need to move forward. We need to be able to take the next step, which is to bring the sustaining dollars.
Well, you had shared a photo of Captain Joseph House. I know you can't see it, but for those that are watching, I have it up on the screen right now. And in Port Angeles, Washington, we get small dusting of snow on an annual basis, right?
I know.
Enough to tell your family and loved ones elsewhere, hey, it's snowing, but it's
a couple days.
This year, it was major, and I love you sent a photo of the home. I'm putting it up right now. So, in preparing for the show last night and building, my 10-year-old son comes and looks, and wow, the Captain Joseph House looks so awesome. And my wife comes over and goes, oh my gosh, oh yeah, and I said, look at the flag. Because you could tell the the winds are coming in from the north, so the flag is running perpendicular to the camera angle.
Well, I have to tell you, that was, it had not been blowing. My home is directly east of Captain Joseph House, and out of my dining room window, I can see Captain Joseph House.
Okay.
And I happened to be walking through the dining room. There was a puff of wind, and I saw the flag start to flutter. So it's about midnight when I'm taking that picture, and I took my phone out, and I thought, oh, I'll get a picture.
That photo?
That photo. It's actually, if you go on to the Facebook, you'll see me. I've took the picture, and you keep pushing it, and you'll see the flag fluttering, and it'll just keep fluttering.
Okay.
But I went out, and it didn't. There was no more puff. And I kept thinking, oh, it's going to blow again. So I stood out there about 20 minutes before it had that enough wind coming in from the north to take that picture.
At midnight.
Yes. By now, I'm covered in snow. My fingers are frozen. I can barely take the picture. But it's beautiful. It's an amazing, amazing time. It was so peaceful.
Wow.
So peaceful. And we hope that we don't have snow like that every year at all. We haven't had that since, I think, 20 years, according to the weather recordings. But
I loved it.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
I liked it.
It was
too.
beautiful.
I did too.
Betsy, thank you so much for making time to come on the show today.
Thank you, Carrie, for opening the door to this. And I hope with this opportunity that we'll have reached out to many people in the United States and around who are watching, listening to your radio. We'll consider getting involved.
I hope so. I really do. We'll see what we can continue to do on my end.
Thank you.
I know that my family is very much a tremendous fan, and that goes for my extended family that are living elsewhere. So we need to create we need T-shirts, yes. Right?
Will you come and work and you'll have a T-shirt? We have volunteer T-shirts.
No, we need an army of T-shirts,
army T-shirts.
Across the United States of solicitors hitting the streets, banging the drums, thanking those men and women that are in the service that, look, I remember when I went in, I had a family member or two or three or four or five that I did not always see eye to eye with their beliefs, right? But I very clearly remember when I was in, it wasn't a matter of do I agree with them or do I not agree with them. It's a matter of my being here is to protect everyone's right to have those belief systems. We get so hung up and so polarized and arguing with one another about what you believe versus what I believe, but we forget, or at least I think a lot of us do, that there are men and women out there right now maintaining our freedom to have
This conversation.
We cannot let that go. We need to continue to honor them. Betsy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
And I honor you and to your son, and
Thank you.
that he comes home. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, until next time.
Thank you for listening to KMB Talk. You don't have to click home, but you can't stay here.